Hi, happy to see you, the people who don't sleep yet of the end of the long day and ready to listen another one speech is the last one. And um, first of all, okay, it works. So uh, a couple words about me. I'm a founder of indie game dev studio. We're developing casual free-to-play game. Uh, Also, we do some outsourcing, and that we do that to earn money to pay our team to build a casual game. So, and while we're seeking for investments, and I, okay. You see me? Okay. I was a lecturer in the university. Oh, okay. So, and before that, I did a lot of outsourcing in other industries, and now I'm trying to bring this experience to game dev, and I will share some little tips with you. It's more about production, not about marketing, about the processes. Uh, oh, let me check. Oh, it started to scrolling. Not good. Paulina is there. Okay. Oh, wow, someone looking for Paulina.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
For scrolling.
Yeah, no. I switched
There we go.
some mode. Turn back, please, a bit. Next.
There you go.
Okay, I will say next. So, in general, we know that there is three big stages in game development. It's pre-production, where we do research, when we do the game design document, when we agree about the game concept, when we find out what we're going to do. There is a production stage that, of course, it's not waterfall. For now, it's some iterative process when we are testing bigger version of our game, looking for different metrics. It's a CPI, then it's a retention, of course, it's a monetization metrics. And if we have a good results, we go global. And even after that, the production cycle continues when we introduce new content, when we introduce a new meta, and so on. So we always work on production. Okay, next. Okay. And in the production, we meet in the game dev, especially a lot of very different types of work. I came from some usual web and mobile development, and I see the difference in the game dev. There's big variety of specialists. There is art part, animations, development, sound, level design, and you have to figure out how to communicate, how to make the process effective. Next. So how you will organize workflow. Also, you need to find a good toolkit that your team will use, and masterpiece them. Find different tips. Find the way it's more effective for your team, for your process. It could be different, but I will tell more about our experience, and it mostly based on mistakes that we made and we understood. Okay, move on. So I start general about after we get the GDD from the pre-production stage, we understood that it's very important that even if we don't unsure what we're making, we need some kind of roadmap. We use a Jira for that, but you can use another tool. But it helps to see right direction, to control your timeline. It will change 100 times, and it's fine. But if you don't have it, you will never finish even first stage. So when we see a roadmap, it helps you to not to put more and more tasks in it. It's easier for you to say stop. We freeze the backlog. We don't do new features, we need to finish and test it and understand our retention and make some decision based on metrics, not based on our thoughts. Okay, move. And what is, of course, connected with the roadmap is a task tracker. So it's also Jira on this example. And maybe it sounds very obvious and everyone uses task tracker. But in fact, I learned that many teams neglect that. They have some verbal communication. Okay, on this week we do this or that. They forgot about some important things, or they, even worse, they do something twice or 3 times because they forgot that they did before, and other developer makes the same thing. And you should control that. Some teams put the to-do inside the code. It's also bad practice. Use please task tracker. It's very transparent between all your team members. Move on. And also a bit tips about how we use it. First, we started work with the Kanban. It's an agile way of developing software, but like a Trello. I think many of you know Trello, when you have a board and you just moving cards from to do to done, to do to end, but it doesn't have any cycle. It's infinite, and we found it's not very effective as sprints are, because you can't control the scope. It's very important, especially in game dev, because the scope tends to blow very fast, and it's very important to control it, because you will burn a lot of resources. Group your task into epics, into stories, and this is the place where different specialists could find each other. To the artist, with the level designer, with the programmer, and for example, Jira. I love Jira, but you can use. I'll say it's not advertisement. I'm not from the Atlassian, but you can connect tasks between each other. You can say this task blocks another task. The programmer could introduce something before level designer finish some work on the level, or to the artist makes icons, or I don't know, or maybe 3D artist waits for something from 2D artists. It's a very common situation. And also that we faced in our team, when someone waits and waits, or he can't finish his task, but another person doesn't know. He decided to do something, other task, and without these connections, it's not transparent. And if we have connections, we have you can tune Jira. It will be alert you. There's a block you can finish because of that. It will be notify the right person, and this helps you to be in time. Also optional that we are starting to use, it's an integration with the code version control. That also helps your developers to connect the task tracker with their code repository and create branches straightly from the issue tasks. So you always know that this branch is from about this story. I will tell about me a bit later when I will speak about Git flow. Okay, move on the next slide. So I will telling you on the base of our game. It's a free-to-play simulation game, Atomic Cats, that we are doing now. We passed the CPI. It's a casual game. We passed CPI test with good results. We are on retention tests now, and we are doing this game almost a year. And on the beginning, it was an idle builder, but it wasn't good in the retention, and we researched the market that we had to do initially, and we understood what the more proper niche for us, and now results are much better. And we will see some references, some assets from this game later. Okay? Let's move. There is a video, but I don't know if it will. I think this preview won't play because it looks like a screenshot. If anyone wants to see, you can come to me after the speech. So let's proceed. Okay, and always how you should to think before you put another line in your task tracker, in your GDD. You think why you do that, what you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's just you think, oh, that's cool, let's do something funny. But actually you should think, is it something that will help you with your metrics, with your, for example, retention? For example, when we wanted to increase our retention the first day, we understood that it's not enough of content, so for the user, and user need to have a more deep core mechanics because it was too simple and it was not engaging enough. Okay, we understood. We know why we're doing that. Let's go. Let's move to the next. Okay, GDD. Okay, it's a small piece of our GDD, but we started to put a lot of attention to the documentation. We use a lot of tools. We use a Notion as a Wikipedia of our project, and we write down everything from the game concept and game mechanics to some more technical details. For example, how to set up some prefabs in games, to how to put some animations to new characters, because you always forget that. You always spend time to remember, and you make the same mistakes again. Instead of that, you can open the right page. Of course, you should organize the structure of your GDD so you can navigate it easily. But if you do that, any your colleague can find out and save a lot of his time. Also, we use Miro for some visualizing. We have a really very big board for the project with the many schemes, tables, and it's not static, it's alive with the comments. And it always also visualizing helps to our team to understand how game should work. Next is Airtable. No, not next, not next slide. It's the next icon. It's Airtable. I think it's interesting tip for many developers, because as I know, how many developers bring some meta information from the cloud to their game. They use usually Google Sheets and parse these Google Sheets, and in the game, and the game designer can tweak the balance, tweak some digits on the progression, and the game updates without new build. Okay, we know this, but actually Google is not the best tool. So we found that Airtable, it's all the same tables, but they generate automatically API. You should do nothing for that, and you game designer makes a table, instantly you have an API for that table. There is a moment because you should code a bit more to make because you couldn't grab this data from Airtable from big audience. You need to make some intermediate server, but it's very easy for our developers. It took 2 days, and it's very easy to use Airtable for us to store data about game progression, balance, and so on. And Confluence, the last, we used it before Notion, but after some experiments, we moved to Notion. But it's also good, and it's integrated with the Atlassian ecosystem, so it has some cons also. Pros. Okay, next slide now. Yeah. Also, that you're doing, you find different references if you do some content models and art. Of course, you should have in your documentation the description of what is your rules of your art, what their boundaries for your project, because the 2D artist could forget that and make something that's not visual, similar to other elements, or so you should have the documentation and the references. It helps. Okay, let's move to the next slide. And again, so yeah, it's supposed to switch in by click, but now it doesn't work. But level design also, we learned different lessons that we didn't gray boxing on the beginning, but it's very useful even if in the hyper casual games, because if you make levels with the whole environment without gray boxing, you can miss important details. You can put your attention to some beauty, to some not really important for gameplay details. But you can skip to another. I think there is another sample. Yes. So first you need to understand in general how your level looks like, how a player will feel it, and after that to replace these gray boxes to some game objects. Okay. Okay. Next. Yeah. Also, this. I think. Okay, it's about the optimization. Yeah, it's about optimization. It's also important, not maybe from the first day, but if you expect to support not very effective devices, old Android devices, you should think about baking meshes, baking light, all this stuff influence your FPS in the game, and if you run your game in the game engine, it's one thing, but when you run on the old Android device of your grandmother, it's another story, and it could be freezing. And there is a well-known easy things that you can do to make your game faster. So just don't forget about that. This is samples of mesh that is not very effective. Too much polygons. Okay, next. Yes, and about organization, point about how you organize your game inside the game engine. So it's also very important to have a structure documented, and keep it. And it also saves your time when you need to find some specific object, or you put another, you know the right place where you do. When you are making, for example, a new scene, you have a pattern, you have a template, and it's easier to control how it works. It's easier to handle errors if you have. If you have some messy things on your scene, I know it happens. It will be harder for you to find where it went wrong. And it will. Time to time, when you, I don't know, merge branches from level design to development, it's our case, you have new errors on the scenes, and you need to understand what went wrong and fix it. And if you have clean hierarchy of your scene, the clean structure of the whole project, it's also not the scene, it's the structure of the folders in your project, the naming of them, how you name it, how you store it, where you store your packages. The more you structurize it, the easier for you to don't waste your time. You don't waste your time on some silly things like searching, looking for someone where is a file or some object. Okay. Next. About user interface. Also, important tip is first of all, it's the user interface should be done by the interface designer, not by 2D artists that make characters. It's it's our mistake in the past because it's very different things. And when you have someone who knows how to make interfaces, it even could be someone not from the game development industry. It could be some designer who made mobile applications in the past and switched to game dev, and he will bring to you a lot of new information. He will work not in the Photoshop. He can, but then he will export that to the Zeppelin, or he will work in the Figma or Adobe XD. And for the developers, they will thank you for that, because they will see all sizes, all paddings, all constraints. They will easier for them to do it properly and adaptive in the game engine. If they will have only picture, don't expect a good result. Okay. Okay, about the development. First, I already mentioned that it's a Git flow. It's a common in the industry way to work with the code. So all developers should know what is it. If they don't know, they can Google Git flow and then read about how to create new branches in the repository, how to create new features. So it's just an algorithm, but it also helps you to don't have any conflicts, to keep it clean, to always understand who was responsible to that feature or for another feature, who is responsible for the result. And you should do a merge requests. So it's also a practice from the development where some, I don't know, team lead or your CTO will review the code and will accept that or reject that with some comments, and like that. And next slide, it's also about the code convention. It's also more for developers, but it's also important to keep it clean, to choose one convention. There are different conventions. It's how you name different variables, classes, but you should choose the one convention for your project, and that will help your developers to read the code from other developers to make new changes. Because if we will not have convention, you will have more errors in the code. Okay. Yeah, it's another tip from our team about sharing knowledge. It's not only for development team, but we started from developers, but you can do it for the artists or from game designers. We have some calls about 1 time in 2 weeks when one member of our team prepares some team. He explains some topic in his field of expertise to another, or he could even don't have any expertise, but he will learn, prepare, and explain. And that helps your team to don't stop on their expertise level, but grow up steadily. Okay, we have a bit time. And also about documentation. So we have our developers also have all documentation in the Miro, in the Notion. So they don't have only code, because you have an architecture. So it's the whole picture of your project, and you need to document it, because on one day you will need to introduce a new feature, or you need to introduce something important to make some changes in your everywhere, in monetization, in the progression, to bring new content. And your developers should find the right place how to scale it, how to expand it, and not to broken it, to keep your game as a product robust and scalable. So don't neglect this part of the work. Spend time to it, and you will save more time in the future. Okay? And about content, it's also, okay, I already told about style guide. Okay, so we can move next. So it's the same. Okay, it's also about the how you store your assets. If we use Google Drive, maybe you know a better solution. I will be glad to hear. But anyway, you should have a place where you have all your sources, not pictures, but the sources. It's a PSD files or other files, so you control it. In the drive, you can see the history of versions of the file. Of course, you should also have some convention over the names of all your assets. And that also helps. And your artists and your developers and the level designers to find the right reference, right assets, and bring them to the project. Okay, next. It's about the production order. Yes, it's if you need to make a new model, don't go straight in modeling. Just keep the order, make a concept art, maybe very simple in 1 hour, but spend your time, and you then make some 2D model or make some parts, make a gray box. After that, use some texture. So do it step by step. Don't try to make the whole thing in 1 day without order, because our practice shows that if you keep these steps, they are different in different. If you have 3D model, if you have icon, it's different. But in general, you should keep the right order of making. Of course, it's a question of the expertise of your team members. They should know how to do that, but they could forget. They could try to make it faster. But it's better to keep it, spend a bit more time, but make it cleaner and not to remake it later. Okay, next. Okay, about the conclusion is simple. So in general, what you need to make a game, to have a good pipeline, of course, you need to have a high expertise. You need to have experts in your team, and you should learn from them. You should have a work discipline. Is what I said about documentation, conventions, and so on. It's also important to keep your budget, to keep your timeline, and the passion. I think all of you have it, but it's also an important part of the game development. Okay, I think it's last slide. Yes, okay. Yeah. Thank you. Join to me to LinkedIn, and I will be glad to answer questions now after I'm here. Thank you.